In the 70s, I was a little girl and I really enjoyed collecting wildflowers in the woods where I lived and pressing them and then trying to find out what their names were. In the same time, in the 70s, my grandpa was still alive in Wales and he was still doing exactly the same thing, going out, finding wildflowers, trying to identify them. I'm a florist, that's my job. I've been a florist for 30 years. So I thought, oh, isn't that amazing? This grandpa that I'd never even knew about was really interested in flowers. The Chelsea Flower Show rang me up and asked me to exhibit there in 2019. So I thought, well, I've just got to do, you know, a piece about my grandfather. I didn't know that Royston Smith, who is part of this exhibition, existed till 2019. And when I found out about him then, I discovered that I had these cousins, Stephen and Nicola. And so I met them today for the first time, which was quite emotional for me.
He was very prolific. He went out most weekends looking for flowers. Barry, Dock, Penarth, Cardiff. There are at least 800 samples in the museum up at National Museum of Wales that has his samples there. And we went there a couple of years ago and they actually showed them, which was in his writing, and they'd all been pressed. He was my granddad. He wasn't anybody special, nobody exceptional. I was really proud that even 100 years, most of his work was done in the 20s, so we're 100 years down the line and there's still, you know, people are still interested in him and how he worked and what he did.
It was me that discovered the story, and then I was interviewed on the Today programme on Radio 4, and Haf heard the interview.
So I moved back to Wales in 2015, and I had the opportunity to sort of be involved with this project called Creative Schools. And my husband happened to be listening to Radio 4 and he heard Gail Smith, who's a London florist, being interviewed about this link between and the shared interest she had between her estranged grandfather and her in botany, and the fact that these flowers that he discovered came from Barry and Cardiff docks. The children's work was almost like all these little hands, you know, creating my ideas really, or sort of acting out the ideas that I sort of helped them develop.
This is maps of the world, looking at where the seeds have come from and where the boats have come from that brought the grain into Cardiff Bay that grew the flowers that Royston Smith discovered. They made up the names for different boats.
A lot of organisations like health boards and also schools themselves have just recruited me to work with them. So it's just developed organically.